Well, hello, everybody. Welcome, episode 15, episode XV, maybe, Roman numerals. We've done enough of these. We can go the Super Bowl route. What do you think?
I'm for it.
You're for it? Well,
Yeah.
Paul, before we get too far into this, I just want to point out 15 episodes means I've now gone longer with you than I did with my previous podcast, Unified, which only went 14 episodes. So this is a milestone moment for us.
Other Paul.
Other Paul, yeah, I'm only allowed to do podcasts with people named Paul. Everyone knows that. So episode 15, Paul Caputo, podcast Paul, with Captain Chris, I guess is my name.
Or like
The
that.
Vince Carter episode, the Dick Allen episode, Bart Starr. Anybody else?
Of course, I have to bring up Carmelo Anthony, national
Hey.
champion of Syracuse, and Denver Nuggets 15 before he was 7-0 or 00, and Patrick Mahomes. Did we say him?
No.
Oh, I guess he's pretty significant.
National champion Indiana, Las Vegas Raiders quarterback Fernando Mendoza.
Wow.
Look at this.
This is quite good right off the top of your head here. I'm amazed.
Okay, fine. Thomas Caberlet, old Maple Leafs defenseman. That mystery voice you heard over there quoting random number 15s is Andrew Lynn, our NFL, NBA, NCAA, any other collection of letters correspondent on the website. He's joining us today because we have a lot of NBA stuff to talk about this week. We had two unveilings. Let's talk about some of these uniforms. We had the Houston Rockets, the Minnesota Timberwolves, both came out this week. Both of them pretty much did the same thing, right? A combination, a greatest hits package, let's call them. I have a hard time finding a lot of problems with either of these uniforms. I'd like to hear what you have to say about this, NBA uniform expert Andrew Lind.
So when it comes to these rebrands, it's kind of interesting because I think that we talked about this with my NFL series too. The fact that everybody is kind of looking at these classic designs, these nostalgic designs, and they're trying to find ways to implement more modern kind of things. And when you talk about the Rockets, they really said, okay, we're going to go back to that ketchup and mustard color scheme, and then we're going to add in little things from here and there. So you have the Dunkstronaut from their city edition uniforms. You have the pinstripes from their 90s and early 2000s uniforms. You have that crooked font from the Hakeem Olajuwon years, those kind of things. And really, it's just taking those little bits and pieces that everybody loves and putting them into something singular and special. Same thing with the Timberwolves too. I think that theirs is a little bit different because the association and icon uniforms, which effectively are their white home, or at least historically white home, and then the colored road uniform. We know that doesn't mean anything in today's NBA. But those two uniforms are kind of their own separate thing from what the Statement Edition is. The Statement Edition is a very clear late 90s, early 2000s ode to that, whereas the icon and association are the original uniforms with some little hints here and there of bringing it all together.
Yeah, and that's what I like about this is, a lot of times throwbacks just kind of feel like they're tacked onto a uniform set. Whereas this is, okay, we've gone throwback. The Timberwolves have added a uniform from a different era to the set, but they made it feel like it actually belongs to the set.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about like all these designs individually, the Timberwolves actually kind of teased this whole rebrand over the past couple years because they really picked those as like their hardwood classics. They brought they called them the Black Trees last year, and everybody went crazy for them. Well, this is pretty much what those are with the Wolves word mark. They have the trees on the trim, and then they added a little bit of detail too with the blue, the blue line that's on it, or the blue trim that's with it, to kind of as a nod to those 10,000 lakes. So, it's that, and then the fact that a couple years ago they also did a city edition uniform that was the same kind of thing. It was just mixing these little pieces and saying, hey, this is what we like, this is where we should be going, let's see what the reaction is to it. And then once everybody went crazy for them, they're like, okay, yeah, let's make this happen.
Okay, so it's kind of weird. So this team's called the Minnesota Timberwolves, but their uniforms don't say Minnesota or Timberwolves on any of them. What do you think? Like, could they have fit Timberwolves onto one of these uniforms, at least one of them? Why isn't Minnesota written on any of these things? It's weird to just have a nickname on all three.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of talked about that with the Rockets too, though. Is if you look back at the Wolves' original uniforms, they just said Wolves on them. There wasn't Minnesota didn't show up until their like 2008 rebrand or
Mhm.
redesign. So it's not as if there's this historically long period of them having Minnesota on it. It was either Wolves or Timberwolves. Personally, I told you this in our group chat too. I like them as the Timberwolves. I don't really like this shortened version of it. You know, I kind of prefer their. I mean, it's not kind of. I absolutely do prefer their. Kevin Garnett uniforms. I know he started with the originals, but what I associate with Kevin Garnett is the trees on the trim, and to me, that's the Timberwolves. I like the
Mhm.
font that was with it. If I would have picked, I would have gone in that direction, just because to me, that's that team. And I think that that's what's interesting about all of these redesigns, whether it's the NFL or NBA or college or anything like that. A lot of people latch on to what they grew up with. So me, the Rockets, I never watched the Rockets wearing ketchup and
Mhm.
mustard uniforms. I almost remember them more as the cartoon spaceship, that kind of stuff. So is that the better design? No, but would I have liked to see maybe the statement edition uniform be blue with
Mhm.
some red trim as opposed to black? Yeah, absolutely.
I think I've pushed Paul Caputo out of the podcast right now. Sorry, Paul.
No, I'm
But
doing some very important research here
he's looking
about
up number 15s.
Number 15, yep.
Derek Martin. Wore it from 1995 till 2004 with the Timberwolves.
Oh, there you go. Nice. Okay.
Also, here's a trivia question. Who was the second to last player to wear number 15 for the Atlanta Hawks? Give you a hint. He's already been named on this podcast.
Vince Carter?
Oh,
Vince
Carmelo
Carter.
Anthony. Well, technically, if you want to get technical, he
What
never
do you mean
wore it.
technically? Carter
Carmelo
never wore
Anthony got
15?
Carmelo Anthony got traded to the Hawks,
Oh,
and they
okay.
actually posted a tweet that had his jersey, and
Whoa.
like that's kind of one of those things that would be like a holy grail for me. He never played for him, but
We
this
got to get
jersey
you we got to
exists.
get you a custom Atlanta Hawks jersey with Anthony on the back.
Mm.
But then he ended up I think they traded him to the Bulls, and then the Bulls cut him, and then he was out of the NBA for like a year. So
Well, I apologize for
Is
disrupting everything here. I just thought it was very important that
right.
Derek Martin was wearing this uniform that Andrew was talking about with Timberwolves across the front, not just Wolves or T-Wolves.
I was just going to say to Andrew, to add on to his point there, people like what they grew up with. And I've always had this theory that everyone loves whatever was being used when you're 12 years old. So
Hmm.
just go back to when you're 12, and that's just what you feel most comfortable with. Personally, I don't have an attachment to either of these designs. I just like bright colors, and I want bright colors to come back in sports because, they were everywhere in the 80s and early 90s. They all got darkened in the late 90s. They got darkened even more in the 2000s. And yeah, it's just refreshing to see some bright colors again when you turn the game on. So I'd have no problem with Minnesota going back to that KG era set, but I want to see them in these bright blue and bright green instead of I don't know that more muted blue that they used during that era. I don't what would you call that? Slate blue? Is that
slate blue.
Mm.
slate blue? Yeah.
This Min logo, Minn, is that something they've ever used before, or is that new to this sort of refresh retro
Yeah,
rebrand?
so kind of going back to the whole teasing thing, they actually had that as the chess word mark on one of their City Connect uniform. Or I'm sorry. See, we start to get a little convoluted here with everybody calling it City this and City that.
Right.
Their City Edition uniforms. I think it was 2021, 22, or 2021. They did a uniform that was a nod to the North Star. It was
Mm.
black, had the MINN on the front, and they've kind of tested the waters here and there with what they ended up going with, and then I think just that whole idea of everybody just liking these bright retro colors is what kind of sold them on the whole thing. And I do to me, I would have gone a little bit of a different direction and not had such a separate identity between the three, well, the two more or less primary uniforms and then the statement. I would have put the tree trim on every single one of them
Mm.
because I think that continuity that should exist between all of those is what makes it a uniform. I don't like this idea where uniforms aren't uniform. You
Yeah.
have to have something that's consistent throughout that makes it unique. And I think that that's one thing that NBA really struggles with too is You could turn on any game and we have them in their city edition uniforms. The NBA flirted with doing an earned edition, which was a team would get a special uniform if they made the playoffs the year prior. It was basically like another color version of a city edition uniform. And sometimes you get kind of lost with what all these teams are wearing. So I would like to see them kind of rein it back a little bit. To me, all you need, white, team color, alternate color, and maybe a hardwood classic every 5 years, or an anniversary, or a championship, a yearly anniversary, whatever. Like, I love uniforms, I love new uniforms, but if I was running it, let's peel it back.
The
Testify, Andrew. Testify. Yeah, I'm right there with you.
the Min logo reminds me, not to tie it to baseball as I always do, but the Min MINN logo reminds me of what the Brewers did with Wisconsin for their City Connect, where they had Wisco across the front, WISCO. And there was sort of this question of, does anyone in Wisconsin actually call it Wisco? I don't know if we ever got the answer to that question, but I don't know if Min is anything other than the Associated Press abbreviation for the state of Minnesota. Like, I don't know if people in Minnesota ever refer to themselves as Min.
I
Yeah.
do agree with your overall point, though. I mean, it's like the Orioles, they have Be More.
Be more.
Does
Hmm.
anybody actually, call it that? Like,
Right.
I know you have people maybe who live out in Glen Burnie or something who might say, I'm going into Be More for the evening or something like that. But, like nobody who actually lives in Baltimore is calling it that. So why not put Charm City, for example, on
Mm.
that uniform? Then all
Or
of a
just
sudden you're
put
like,
or just put Baltimore. I think that would make it
that too.
such a yeah,
So, I
like
mean, the Timberwolves, they have a Minnesota word mark. Why not just put that whole thing?
Mhm.
Like nobody is. I personally don't see anybody going out and buying this secondary logo that it just says Min on it. Like if
right.
anybody's buying anything, it has the Howling Wolf on it, or it
Mhm.
has the Tree M logo, which I think is actually kind of cool because that's a really subtle way of adding that M there. And I think that you guys being baseball fans can kind of attest to this. I think that there's something really cool about finding something that is really simple that can go on a hat.
Mm.
And to me, that's what that is.
Mm.
That's what that logo is. It can go on a belt buckle. It can go on a polo. There's all these other ways of merchandising that kind of stuff. The Min thing, I mean, shoot, that could go for the Lynx. Like
Yeah.
there's you could recolor it and it could be a Twins thing. I don't
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that that's something that has lasting power to me.
I can't imagine somebody buying a cap that just says Min on it and walking around and expecting everyone to know that this represents the Timberwolves, right? Like it's such an afterthought waste of a logo. Like, why not do something really exciting with that?
That brings up actually a question, Chris, that we were talking about last week that I'd be curious to hear Andrew's take on, which is we were talking about what's more important for a franchise and for its branding, the logos themselves or the color?
Yeah, it was in the context of when you go to a throwback, right? Would you rather see the original logo and uniforms, or is it just good enough to see those original colors?
It's a very complicated question to answer just because I see value in so many different ways. I think like we see teams that will do these kind of retro rewind kind of uniforms where they'll change the colors. The design will be the same, but they'll be like, oh yeah, we used to have this color, so let's see what it looks like. And I think that it can be tastefully done, but I think that sometimes you start to like again, you convolute your brand a little bit because you're mixing something. It's like if the Yankees went out and just were, oh, let's have red on our uniforms. Let's have purple, something like that. Like that doesn't make sense. Like and it's very team dependent too. I think some teams can get away with it. There's teams that don't necessarily have these decades or almost 100 years worth of branding cachet that they can carry with it. So it's just a little bit of a difficult question to answer. I think within the terms of like the Eagles, there's going to be a large portion of the fan base that wants them to go back to or Kelly Green. I personally like them more as a Midnight Green team. And I think that like if they took their old uniforms and they made them Kelly Green, that wouldn't work. But I do think like there's the ability to say, okay, we can see what the Kelly Green looks like with their current uniforms. Like it just depends. There's a lot of variables there. Like I think, and I hate to bring this team up,
Do
given
it.
what our conversation has been so far. The Denver Nuggets, to me, they're the perfect explanation, like the perfect thing that answers your question, because you could go back to when I think they originally, and I could be wrong. I might be just mixing up a jersey that I owned way back when, but I had a Denver Rockets jersey that was purple and gold. And I think that they had like a brief 1 year period where they had that, but then, we saw them in the 90s when they were blue, red, and gold. Then they went to the powder blue and yellow, and they had navy in there too. So then they ended up kind of phasing that out, and now they're back to this navy, red, gold kind of thing. Which one would you say is the Nuggets?
I
And
think
and
they're the Tetris skyline rainbow against the White Mountains.
That too.
and I'm navy blue, yellow, and gold. So again, Denver Rockets. That was ABA. That was the
That's right.
ABA. Yeah, and yeah, they did
I
go
just,
purple and gold. Yep.
of course, I had a Carmelo Anthony jersey that was a Denver Rockets.
You have a Denver Rockets Carmelo Anthony jersey. See that to me, that's even
Yeah,
more rare than a Carmelo Atlanta Hawks jersey.
that is true.
We haven't really talked about Houston a lot.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
In the
get this out of the
comments,
way. I will say
oh, cool.
I hated how they unveiled these. Every piece of it, because they teased everybody for a week, and as we knew going into it, they were dropping hints along the way. You
Yeah.
know, the Rudy T logo, the Dream Shake, like there was a brief period where they showed the word marks and the numbers, and there was a little in the black you could see a little bit of the pinstripe. So it was like we could see these things being pieced together and basically flaunted in the open as to what was going to happen.
And we
And
had to be
then
good. We had to be good,
yeah,
pretend that we didn't know what was going on because
and
we
then
weren't allowed to reveal this stuff.
then they waited a week and didn't say anything for like a week on social media. So they just kept saying coming soon. There was no we have a date, anything like that. And then when they did do it, it was piece by piece by piece by piece by piece. And that's hard for us to write a story on it
Uh-huh. Well,
because
you were asleep, and
oh yeah.
and I was lying in bed, and I see this tweet from the Rockets, and I go, "Oh, come on, Andrew, are you awake? I know you're in a different time zone, but please be awake." Yeah, and ran downstairs, and so my original idea was I was just going to write a story on the logo coming out because that was all that came out at first, piece by piece. So I did this story. Here's the logo, guys. We'll have more details when it's available. I was about to hit publish, and more details were available. So I had to go back, add the details, do all the alternate logos and all that. Don't worry, we'll be back with the uniforms when those are available. I go to hit publish, and what's available? So it just ended up being, it was about what, an hour and a half of them trickling out this unveil. The whole time I'm panicking and trying to get through it quickly. And you can replay that chat, Andrew, as I was panicking in front of everybody.
Oh yeah. I woke up and it's 8 o'clock local time. I wake up and I check our chat and all I see is like 40 messages from Chris. It's just a long line of are you awake? What are we doing?
No, no,
Okay, I got it. I got it.
let's point out to people that I wasn't like wake up or anything. I was like, it's
Oh no,
okay. I
not
just
at
want to
all.
make sure you are. I got this. I don't want you to go in now and double up everything. And I felt
What's
bad because you had pre-written the whole story
yeah.
with anticipation, and we didn't even get a chance to use it. So
What's weird is that the Double A Wichita Wind Surge rebranded as the Turbo Tubs, and I didn't have a single message from Chris about it. I'm not sure where the urgency was about the big Wichita Wind Surge Turbo Tubs news.
well, and also as I was going through all that not that craziness that Paul sends me. Here's the wind surge story. Okay, I'll get to it. I feel so bad because Paul works hard to write these stories. Half the time he catches me in a moment when I'm in panic and I
It's
just
all
can't
right.
get back to you. It's
Get
okay.
get
I'd say
the
that's
get
the
the
one thing that I appreciate the most about you, Paul, is you're not writing for a large audience there with some of these minor
Oh,
league stories, but I think you do a great job, and that you do deserve the credit for doing that.
Well, I appreciate that, Andrew. You guys write way more in depth. Like, I mean, and it's borne out in the fact that, I'm looking at this Rockets story and it's got like 32 comments on it. And I usually get one or two comments on those minor league stories, but I have fun
I
doing
will
the
read every single one of them.
well, it's fun. I will say though that like there are times with the minor league stuff that like there's one every day for
Mhm.
2 months. Like March and April, I was writing literally a story a day. Now, granted, these stories are like 3 or 4 paragraphs each, but like every single day there was something new to write about. And I said, Chris, I'm on it. I'm on it. And he says, take your time. It's all right. Like, don't sweat
Whatever. It's all good.
it.
Chris should send you on like a season long thing where you just go to one random team every single day and just
He
just
would
write something.
absolutely do that if I asked him
Yeah.
to.
100%.
It actually reminds me, there was a writer, I think he just was for minorleaguebaseball.com or MILB.com. And 12 years ago, I was living in Virginia Beach, but he
Okay.
was going around to all these different parks.
Yeah.
The cool thing that he was doing was all these different like food challenges.
Oh, yeah.
Well, after a while, he said that he couldn't really do them anymore, so he would pick a random fan to do it. And so I
Yeah.
did one at the Norfolk Tides game,
Oh, cool.
You were
and
Ben's designated eater?
I was.
Ah.
Um, I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but it was like like six pulled pork sliders, some sausage, some chicken wings, some loaded tots,
Uh,
and I was supposed to be the only one that did it. And this guy, he just randomly like he saw that Ben was walking with me, and he just followed us into the restaurant. And so Ben ended up paying for both of us to do it. This
no.
dude, and I was going like I was going to finish this thing. And because I was like, I'm not gonna do myself wrong and have this opportunity and then not do it. Well, this guy who went with me, he had like maybe half the food gone, and the next thing I know, he turns and grabs a trash can.
No.
Yeah, at that point, I was done. I couldn't do anymore, so I ended up
Yeah.
having lunch with me for the next day. But
There you go. There
it
you
was it
go.
was a fun experience.
Well, Ben has celiac disease, and so he can't eat like really anything at these ballparks, and so he has this designated eater program. I have never gotten to participate in the designated eater program, but interacted with Ben a bunch. He's great.
Yeah,
We're way off topic, and I've just eaten into like a month and a half worth of my minor league minute here.
I mean, this is your problem, not mine. I'm. We were going to talk about the Rockets before we started complaining about how they unveiled it. The Dunksternaut logo.
I like
What do
that
you
one.
think about this, Andrew? I remember when the Dunksternaut logo came out, and remind me if I'm misremembering this, but I remember people accusing this of being an AI generated logo when it first came out. And this was like a really early accusation of AI logos. Am I misremembering that? Do you remember any sense of that rate when it
I
because
don't
at
remember
first,
that
okay.
as much as I remember that Tim Tebow also wore 15.
For the Columbia Fireflies when he was in minor league baseball, he wore 15. Can I just say that any any accusation of a major professional sports team using AI in logo generation is just the witch hunt gone way too far astray. Like no major professional team is going to have to rely on AI. They've got a whole team of artists and designers, and there's like no point. They don't need to like have some joker in PR run something through Chat GPT to develop a logo. They have artists who can do that. I think any accusation that the Houston Rockets are using Chat GPT to design their logos is really goofy.
I found no evidence that this was the logo I was thinking of.
I do think
Uh,
though that could be. I think that AI is finding itself into certain parts of sports because of some of the designers who want to integrate it into their workflow. And I think that there's a larger conversation about AI and what it should be used for and those kind of things. I personally believe that it's something that should be used as a tool to supplement things. If there's something that I can't do, or something that makes a process easier or something like that, to me that makes sense. To just straight up use that to replace designs, to replace graphics, to create something that should be created by somebody else is where we're kind of entering that weird area where people don't know what to necessarily believe or understand what it takes to create those things. And I'll give you a perfect example. So during around the NFL draft, there was pretty prominent, I'll say like group of four college designer who was talking to everybody on social media about how he needs to, or how everybody should be integrating this into their work and those kind of things. And that itself then caused this larger thing where every team that was doing a uniform swap of their new drafted players was showing the entire process of what they were doing
Mm.
just simply because there are some people who will use it as much as they possibly can and try to fool people into thinking that it's real, while there are other people who not necessarily putting all day and all night into it, but those are people who are talented, and I think it's taking away from that. So there has to be that balance of maybe it's increasing or improving workflows, but also not becoming the entire thing.
So long
Well
as
said.
I would just tag on to that that generative AI looks backwards. It looks at pre-existing stuff that already exists on the internet, and
Yeah.
human creativity looks forward and does care about existing intellectual property laws. So that's my feeling on generative AI in logo design.
Andrew, I want to know your take on the Houston Rockets using a yield sign for a logo. The amount of people who commented on the, I'm going to just swerve this right back. Segways be
you're
damned.
you're doing great.
Keep on going, guys. The amount of comments I got comparing this Rockets logo to a yield sign, at first it was, oh, yeah. And then after a while, it was like, okay, I get it, guys. Read the other comments. It's supposed to be a space badge. And I looked up the history of some space mission patches from astronauts, and I couldn't really find a lot of examples of one in this particular format with a triangle pointing down. There's a few pointing up, which makes sense for space. What do you think about this one, Andrew?
Yeah, it's something we talked about too. It's when I saw it the first time, I was like, that's interesting because it wasn't just a roundel that had
Hmm.
the team name wrapped around the outside of it. So I will give them credit there. But I started doing the research like you did in terms of instantly I knew, obviously, they're in Houston, Johnson
Yeah.
Space Center. They're the Rockets. Like they were going to go in this sort of direction anyway. I did see like the space shuttle patches. Those are typically triangles that are facing upward. So the direction of it did kind of throw me off a little bit. I actually saw a kind of a concept of it that I really liked myself. The background was black and it had some stars in the background.
Hmm.
And to me, it just feels like they're taking parts of an idea and throwing them all together. Like there's all these separate ideas that they're like, oh yeah, we got to keep our stylized R that's a rocket with the smoke ring and all that kind of stuff. We got to keep that front and center. The I like the stars, like the yellow stars or diamond shapes that are on the outside of the word mark. The word mark's nice, but then it just feels like it's just kind of slapped on there, and we're supposed to just take their word that it's supposed to be a nod to the spacesuits.
Okay, so there's a couple of things I want to ask in here. First of all, do we really need to keep that R, that stylized R? Like, I feel like that's sort of being forced on us.
Hmm.
Nobody really has any sort of attachment to this. The Rockets have done nothing while wearing it. A lot of the comments were, associating that R logo with the Rockets' attachment to trying to appease China, going back to the Yao Ming days and trying to create an identity that would sell merchandise out in the Far East. My second question to either of you, whoever want to take it, when will we get a global logo in the NBA that incorporates a word mark in a way that doesn't feel like it's in a roundel or just slapped on? Like whatever happened to the days of actually incorporating a word mark into a logo in a half decent way?
Do you have an example of one that has done that in the past? That's done it
No,
well?
no.
Oh. Uh,
Well, okay. How about the original Houston Rockets logo that I'm looking at their page right now?
That's what I was looking at though. Is it?
Yeah.
I mean, I like the Rocket R more than I like their 90s logo or their 80s and 90s logo. I
Hmm.
mean, to me, you could replace that. It wasn't really until I was looking at it hard enough to see the rocket that's going around the basketball and the crescent moon, which I did point out in the story, and somebody commented, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I've never seen that before." Like now it looks totally different. But I don't think that that's necessarily a good logo. That's not something that's going to hold up for a long time and is immediately recognized as the Rockets. So I see the idea of the R being, such a prominent thing. I don't know. They just don't seem like a team that necessarily has this brand itself that can carry itself through, eternity.
Yeah, it's just the red and yellow, right? That's the like again, this goes back to our original conversation. Well, not original, but our last point that we made about what's more important, the colors or the logos. And with the Rockets, it's the colors. Right? Like there's no actual so to me, the Houston Rockets, red and yellow with random lowercase letters in the word mark. That's their look to me. That's what makes them unique versus everyone else. And I guess it could be that cartoon rocket, but to me, that's a because that came out, after I was a certain age. To me, that's too new, and it doesn't feel right, doesn't feel familiar, and all that. Yeah, the Rockets have no identity aside from their colors, in my opinion, and this just is just a continuation of that.
Even looking at the current global logos for the NBA, you don't really see anything that is has integrated that the word marks in very well. I mean, every single team has either the city name at the top and then the nickname on the bottom, or it just kind of wraps all the way around. Like, to me, the only times that you see it where it's integrated fine are like the Pistons, for example.
Hmm.
That was, front and center. It wasn't wrapped around the ball. You do have some instances like the Mavericks, they kind of have it in the moon that's at the top. Yeah, it's not like, to me, that was just the NBA kind of trying to force this global perspective. You can't just, for some reason, Adam Silver had the idea that you can't just look at a logo and know what it is without the team name.
Yeah,
Hmm.
And I think that
not
that kind of created something that went beyond that, where we're trying to shoehorn these little issues in there. To me, if you're going to be the Rockets, just be this R. You don't need anything else. There's a rocket there. It's an R. Most people are going to be able to put two and two together.
domestically, they're just the R. Internationally, they're the Triangle Houston Rockets team. I think the last team in the NBA to introduce a new logo where they really incorporated the word mark in a decent way, like I guess in an old fashioned way, like similar to like say how the Knicks did or how the Lakers did or whatever. The Sacramento Kings, and that gets overlooked a lot, I think. They made the word mark part of their logo, and it wasn't anything special, it wasn't anything fancy, but they could have easily just stuck a circle around this mountain crown over a basketball, but they actually put Kings in the middle of it. Sacramento incorporated into the is that a mountain range? I guess mountain range of crown is mountain range slash a crown. Yeah, so I think they're the last one who did it. The other ones like Utah, who just went back to an old logo, or the Bucks aren't too bad about that too. But yeah, I think you make a good point about Dallas. That's probably one of the better ones. Charlotte, they did it in a bit of an old school way as well. So I guess it can be done. It just feels like a lot of teams are more focused on let's design this domestic primary icon, and then let's just put the team name around it to satisfy the NBA's requirements for international distribution.
You know,
Which
I'm
is
I'm
which is
intrigued
how
by
a
the
great logo is designed anyway. A great logo is always designed by how
I'm
meeting
intrigued by the
minimums.
idea that the Kings have mountains in their logo.
Do they? It looks like a
Um,
mountain, doesn't
well,
it?
no, that's what you said, so it kind of makes me
Yeah.
question like Toronto Public Schools.
Look, we don't
'Cause-
learn about Sacramento's
no, that's fair.
geography.
That's fair.
Doesn't it look like mountains? Am I crazy?
All
I
I've ever seen was a crown, but now you got me. I mean,
yeah,
I know
see,
that that's not what
right?
they're doing because it says, and I looked this up
Do it.
just to confirm. I have been there, and I don't ever remember seeing any mountains around Sacramento. It actually does say that downtown Sacramento is located in a flat river valley and has no major mountains. It
Oh,
says the Sierra Nevada mountains are clearly visible about 60 miles east.
but there is a Sacramento mountain range in New Mexico, so that's probably what it is.
Oh yeah, I meant to give that to a G League team.
This is a little bit like when the Colorado Rockies, one of their minor league franchises was the Portland, Oregon Rockies, the Portland Rockies. Great logo with a rose in it and no mountains. One of the things you guys have been talking about the cartoon rocket ship logo for the Houston Rockets, and I've been meaning to mention that to me, I consider that and always have considered that the Planet Express logo from Futurama.
Nice.
Looks like they should be delivering pizzas out of that rocket.
See, I
Uh,
thought Pizza Planet, but I think that's probably our
there you go.
Toy
I,
Story. I think
I
that's
saw
might be our age difference.
I saw somebody wearing a Pizza Planet shirt today, and I thought for a moment that it was Futurama, and I was just like, nope, 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 something different.
And
So
then then it turned out it was just a Houston Rockets logo
it
all
was
along.
it was actually Hakeem Olajuwon. It was weird.
Oh, Toronto
Yeah.
Raptors legend.
The one thing that I don't really like about the Rockets is that on the back of the statement edition uniform, they have
Mm.
just this random stripe. And again, they've cited it being part of astronauts, suit. It's not needed. It just they add these things in there, and sometimes it just gets to be too much. Like I think you have to find a balance of what inspired it, but also not trying to throw every single era of your franchise into something or over design it in a way like we don't want to see, like I don't want to watch a Pistons game and see, like a engine in their side panels or those kind of things. Like there just has to be some sort of balance of finding a design that works without integrating too much detail into it.
Just because you can doesn't mean you have to, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
That Rockets thing on the back of their jersey. I'm going to be honest with you. It reminded me of somebody who didn't wipe properly.
Oh my.
That's all I can see. I can't imagine that's going to last for long. Like that's just going to bother everybody, and it'll be gone whenever they have to update their statement edition in 3 years.
What
That'd be
about, by
fun.
the way, that old Sonics logo, the Supersonics, where it just had Sonics and it had the Space Needle in it? I thought that was a good integration of type and image.
Oh yeah.
That what? Yeah, but that wasn't that like 40 years ago.
Listen, it was a long time ago, but so was I. So,
So that's really interesting though because both them and the Rockets came into the league at the same time.
oh,
And I found it
Right.
fascinating that both of them actually started out, and I wrote this in my story, they were both green and gold.
oh,
They both
So
had,
yeah,
a
we have
rocket
to.
or a supersonic, plane in their logo. So there was so many similarities between these two franchises. The NBA was trying to integrate the West a lot more
Mhm.
because there wasn't as many teams. And then oddly, they get two teams that both come, or that are both in a city that starts with an S. They both get a flying themed name, logo, the same colors. So, it's a good thing the Rockets did end up switching once they moved to Houston because that created a little bit more contrast between some of the league's designs.
First of all, the San Diego to Houston relocation is probably the greatest name carryover that I've ever seen because Rockets works so much better in Houston than it does in San Diego. I just assumed they were two separate franchises. Number two, we got to do a deep dive on why both teams went green and gold at the same time. There's got to be a reason there somewhere.
Andrew, great to
Will
see you
do.
again. We're going to go do some segments now.
Thanks for
Yes.
having me, guys.
Thanks so much for joining us, Andrew.
See you next time, Andrew.
See ya.
All right, Paul, you kicked Andrew out of the house. Now I guess it's all up to you. You can just go and do whatever you want. You can go and talk about, oh, I don't know, let's say minor league baseball for a whole minute.
Wow.
It's the minor league minute with Paul Caputo. Paul Caputo. It's the minor league minute with Paul Caputo. Paul Caputo. It's the minor league minute with Paul Caputo.
I'm quoting all over the place here. All right, Chris. Well, Andrew brought up Tim Tebow, and Tim Tebow famously played for the Columbia Fireflies. The Fireflies are named for the phenomenon of synchronous fireflies at Congaree National Forest in South Carolina. It's this incredible phenomenon where fireflies will blink in unison like Christmas lights. It happens 3 places in the world. It happens there at Congaree National Forest. It happens at Great Smoky Mountains National Park in the United States. And it happens in Malaysia. I have seen this in person in one of those 3 places, Chris. It was Malaysia. I know that that's weird. Anyhow, this team used to be the Savannah Sand Gnats. They moved from Savannah, paving the way for the Savannah Bananas to come into existence. The Sand Gnats were a terrible biting insect. They moved to South Carolina, Columbia, where they are now a beautiful lighting up Firefly. This is a great logo. It's got an FF flame logo. It's got a mason jar with a firefly in it. And it's got the beautiful, beautiful lightning bug, as I call it. Your minor league minute.
First of all, I'm going to say that felt like way more than a minute. Second of all,
It usually does to people when I'm talking about minor league baseball.
I didn't mean it like that. Second of all, that was 3 teams you squeezed into that minute.
Oof. The
Minute
bananas,
plus.
the sand gnats, and the fireflies.
And third of all, please tell me the Fireflies have done some sort of glow in the dark
They have,
material
yes.
on their uniform.
They absolutely have
Yes.
done glow in the dark uniforms, joined by the likes of the Casper Ghosts and the Asheville Tourists doing glow in the dark uniforms.
Glow in the dark teams always have the best names.
They really
Right.
do. They really do. The Casper Ghosts were first.
It's a shame that that team did not survive because, come on, the Casper Ghosts. But their logo was not friendly.
No, it sure
was
wasn't.
very
It sure wasn't. There were trademark laws to consider there. They became the Grand Junction Rockies and then the Grand Junction Jackalopes, and then they fizzled out of existence.
Yeah, I think they were a victim of the pandemic.
No, it was more recent than
No?
that. They
Okay.
were a victim of the Pioneer League deciding to be in California instead of Colorado.
I feel like any pioneers, pandemics, they kind of go hand in
Right,
hand.
right.
You know what? The Grand Rapids Jackalopes died of dysentery.
I really wanted them to be the Grand Junction Ghosts. You've got the alliteration, you've got the franchise history. I thought Grand Junction Ghosts would have been great. They could have absolutely brought back that old branding, which still belongs to them. That was a missed opportunity for that team.
Well, because in minor league baseball, you're not allowed to just call yourself the Ghosts anymore. It'd have to be like the Rapid Ghosts or
The Galloping Ghosts.
the Gallop. Well, no, Galloping Ghost is not. No, it's not crazy enough. It's got to
Oh.
be. Yeah, we got to come up with
This is
something.
going to be a good exercise for one of our episodes one day, is to come up with
Yes.
a.
Come up with ridiculous minor league baseball names. And Paul, I think earlier I called them the Grand Rapids.
You did, and then
Jackrabbits.
maybe I said it too. Grand Junction, not Grand Rapids.
Maybe that's where they went. I don't know.
Yeah, Grand Rapids, home famously to the West Michigan Whitecaps.
Well, yeah, okay, there you go. You can. That's a 4th team and a 5th team.
Yeah, I think it's
I'm
up
getting
to like
wise
6
to
or
you,
7.
Paul.
My
I'm
minor
getting
league minute.
wise to you. This is now a minor league 5 minutes, 6 minutes. It's almost 10 minutes now. It's
Well,
by gosh, almost an hour. It's a minor league hour at this point.
before we get to double-digit minor league teams in this minor league minute, I want to know where you were, Chris, almost 17 years ago to the day at the time of this episode dropping, June 12, 2009.
Jude, well, okay, let's see. I was in Detroit. I was
Whoa.
I was stateside, all the way in Detroit, north of the border for us, going up north to Detroit,
Oh, yeah, of
crossing
course.
from Windsor. I was in Detroit because it was Game 7 of the 2009 Stanley Cup Final
Ooh.
between the host Detroit Red Wings and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Game 7. You know, growing up in Toronto, I don't get the chance to go to Stanley Cup championships too often. My team hasn't made it to the finals since 1967 with no hope of coming back anytime soon. I saw this as an opportunity. I was single. I was childless. I was living alone. I had income to burn.
Oh, my.
So I drove down to Detroit for Game 7, where had a single seat right at center ice. I was actually sitting right next to the broadcast camera, so I had the same view as the television broadcast. And I wore a Detroit Red Wings Paul Coffey jersey, number 77 on the back. I figured I'd cheer for the home team, though I didn't really have any sort of attachment to either team. I figured it'd be nice to see the home team win a Game 7. And it was a close game. It came right down to the last second with a slap shot at the buzzer that would have tied the game. At the time, I was very much into sports photography, so I wanted to take photos of this. I always had this dream. What am I going to do with there's no time on the clock for a Stanley Cup Game 7? And I was in that moment, and I decided I'm going to point my camera at the bench. So I pointed my camera at the bench, and I positioned it, and then I watched with my naked eye and took a picture without looking through the lens because I wanted to experience the moment live.
Yeah.
And I got this great photo of the Penguins just jumping off the bench in celebration. I remember thinking the juxtaposition of the hometown fans being so silent and the jubilation of the Penguins on the ice, right? There's no music playing, there's no confetti flying. This team has won the Stanley Cup. They're losing their minds in the corner, and everyone in the arena is silent. It was wild. You could hear the players screaming, and I was in the perfect position for when Sidney Crosby was handed the cup, his very first Stanley Cup. He turns around, he lifts the cup in the air, and still to this day, I will go to a sports bar in the area, and I can find myself in the background of that photo. A little red and white blip. I know exactly where I am because I'm right next to the TV camera, and I can point to my family. I was like, "Look, there I am in the background of that picture of Sidney Crosby raising the cup above his head." And then after the game, I ran into Toronto Maple Leaf hockey legend Ty Domi, who was enjoying a bottle of champagne just outside of Joe Louis Arena. And I went and I noticed he left it on the curb, and I went and I picked it up and I took it back to my hotel room and had a souvenir.
Oh,
So
very cool.
that
Now,
was the first time I saw a major championship trophy be awarded. And I will say what struck me the most was just how shiny that trophy looked as it was being presented. That just
ooh,
doesn't get captured on television or in photos.
very cool. That's an amazing experience, and I love that you could appreciate it even though it was not your team. I have lots of questions about this. First of all, one of the things that I think is interesting is like when I picture that, I'm picturing only the Penguins players celebrating, and there not being a single Penguins fan like in the stands. Were they pretty much shut out of the stands as fans?
There, there was a few Penguins fans there, but you can hardly hear them
Yeah, yeah,
because and there's also the emotion, right?
yeah,
That you're experiencing this moment. And again, I wasn't cheering for really either team,
yeah,
but still you get caught up in the moment and then watching the players celebrate like that, it feels silent.
yeah,
You
yeah.
like I had a Penguins fan standing next to me
Oh,
and he wasn't screaming or anything. He was just kind
yeah.
of like taking it all in.
I'll bet. I'll
So
bet. That's pretty cool.
like so I've seen three championships awarded in person, and all three of them were the road team winning.
Oh man.
So I haven't quite got that experience.
The other question that I have for you is, and I think back to when I was in San Diego earlier this year, and I went to see the Padres play the Rockies, and because I live in Colorado, I have some Rocky stuff, and I was wearing Rockies gear. And certain fans approached me and they were like, "Hey, yeah, Rockies, always great to see another diehard fan." And then like the Padres fans were like, "Oh, Rockies, we're gonna beat you." And I was like, "I really don't care. Like this is not actually my team." Do you get that? Like, is there like an imposter syndrome when you're wearing the someone else's uniform and people are interacting with you?
Kind of. I mean, I
Yeah,
was in the Red Wings arena and I was wearing a Red Wings
sure,
jersey, so
sure.
I just kind of blended in. It
Yeah.
was nice. I wasn't bandwagon jumping, I
No,
wasn't
no, no.
like, oh yeah, this is our year or anything. I was just I wanted to be part of the fun. I had a Red Wings jersey and I didn't want to get heckled wearing a Penguins jersey for a team I didn't care
Right,
about.
right.
Yeah, and like when I do see the Jays on the road, depending on the stadium I'm in,
Yeah.
I will wear Blue Jays stuff. I'm
Mhm.
one of those guys that if I go into a unfriendly stadium, I will tone down the
Wh-
merchandise.
What are the unfriendly stadiums? Are you allowed to mention?
So the one stadium where I cheered quietly in was Old Yankee Stadium.
Okay.
When my father and I went to a Jays game there in 2007, and we sat in the upper deck, it was just surrounded by Yankee fans. And we didn't really, father and son going to Yankee Stadium. We didn't really feel like getting heckled or yelled
Yeah.
at, or I didn't feel like having someone tell me where my mother should go while my dad's sitting next to me.
Right.
So we went in regular clothing, and I remember the Jays scored a run early to take the lead, and we just sort of we looked at each other and we went, "Yay!" very very quietly.
Uh,
But I did go to another game at Yankee Stadium about 2 or 3 years later in the new stadium, and we sat in the very fancy seats again, pre-children, and
mhm.
I wore my Blue Jays jersey proudly
Yeah.
for yet another loss.
I wore that game that I've talked about a number of times when I saw the Phillies eliminate the Rockies in 2009, also 2009, just not too many months after you got to see this game. I was all Phillies up, of course, and there were a handful of us, but not a ton. And I certainly didn't have any other Phillies fans near me. And we were up in the upper deck down the first baseline. And early on in that game, Shane Victorino hit a solo home run. And I stood up, pumping my fist, and I was cheering. And this guy, like one row ahead of me and maybe like 10, 12 seats down, turns and he says, "Sit down." And then his girlfriend, wife, I don't know, whatever, like whacks him in the arm. She says something to him. And he sits back. That's the only thing anyone said to me the whole game. So the Rockies fans were not too concerned about having a Phillies fan in their midst.
Well, I mean, they assumed you're from Philadelphia and you guys have a reputation. So
Yeah, I look pretty intimidating too. No one wants to get into a fight with me at a ball game.
you turned around, you looked at him, you're like, I've done 4 marathons and I know Spanish and I've been to Puerto Rico and I'm quothing all over the place.
Oh man. Well, I think we have a new song for the minor league minute here.
Are you just going to sample my words and turn it into some sort of rap?
I no, but I feel seen, but not in a good way. How do you say that?
I think it's just being seen.
Okay, that's fair. Chris, gosh, man, we are up against the clock. There is no time for this Bridgeport Islanders story. We will get to that next week. But otherwise, what a great conversation. What fun to have Andrew on as always. And we got to go. We were a little bit all over the place. We finally did cover that Houston Rockets uniform. But another
we
fun
got the
episode.
Fireflies in there too. We got 2 mentions of the Fireflies in.
2 mentions of the Fireflies, both relating to Tim Tebow. Noted
Tim
minor
Tebow,
league star
yeah.
Tim Tebow.
Isn't he's involved in something too, right? I just read him in the news recently. The Augusta Lynx, that new ECHL team that came back with the clever name.
We were just talking about them recently. I'm not
Yeah.
sure I knew that he was involved with that. So,
That guy, he's everywhere except on a football field.
but he played football. He played minor league
Mhm.
baseball. He owns a hockey team, and the hockey team is named for a golf term. So that guy, he's a
Whoa.
4-sport star.
Whoa. Bo Jackson, take a seat.
Chris, we'll see you for episode 16. We're going to have to go look up who were some famous numbers 16.
I got a couple. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll save
All
them though. I don't want to
Save
give them
them.
away.
Yeah. Not yet. We got to keep them in our back pocket. We don't want to give it away. But I will say, last year's AL Rookie of the Year wore number 16.
You know who we didn't mention?
Who's
For
that?
number 15?
Who?
It was his birthday recently. Thurman Munson. We should have mentioned Thurman Munson.
Thurman Munson. Happy belated to Thurman Munson, number 15. You got it in
Wherever
just
you
under the
are.
wire.
Wherever you are, Thurman, happy birthday. Paul, great episode. I look forward to seeing you next week again.